Well, welcome everybody. Tonight we are going to be doing an intern back to campus workshop where we're going to hear from one of our great partners, PepsiCo and Frito-Lay, about some intern opportunities as well as, excuse me, as well as their program. We're also going to hear from Graceland Footet and Zach Gibson, who are both returning interns from some really great opportunities this summer. Without further ado, I'll just go ahead and hand it over to Bethany, and I'll be along for the ride with you. So, Bethany.
Awesome. Thank you, Ray. But just a little bit about me briefly. I'm Bethany Sardoni. I am one of the HR representatives with PepsiCo, and specifically I work within Frito-Lay and our snack foods division. So I work a lot with our sales folks, and I sit out of Southern California in the Los Angeles area. So but enough about me. Let's dig into what we're here to talk about. All right. And I thought it'd be good to just kind of think about, like, who is this presentation for? Who's going to benefit from this? So whatever kind of situation you're in, if you're an incoming student, so you're just starting out and you want to put your best foot forward, or maybe you're a current student, this could be your situation. You didn't have a great internship or job this summer and you'd like a fresh start. You maybe did actually have a great internship, but then you didn't get a full-time offer, or they didn't offer another internship, or, you know, it's not necessarily moving forward. Maybe you did have a great internship and you got that offer. This presentation can help you think about ways you can stay engaged so that you don't kind of mentally check out, and you can really kind of jump ahead. Or, you know, hey, maybe you're in the situation where you didn't have an internship or job at all, but you'd like to, or you kind of start to, you want to start looking into that. And then graduating students, maybe you're in your final year or semester and you want to be prepared to find a full-time job. So this presentation, you know, I'm bringing some tools and resources to help you. And then, of course, we're going to have some star panelists who are joining us today as well. So I'll talk about a couple things. I've got a couple topics on here. Managing your buzz. That's like a PepsiCo term that we've been using, and I'll talk about it, as well as kind of how to become an influential person. And then, but what I'd really like to focus on is we have a couple panelists that we'll be asking some questions to get some good advice. So they're some of our stars here. So I'm going to keep an eye on the time, and because I want to make sure that we save enough time for Graceland and Zachary and some questions for them. So if that means skipping some of this, then I may end up skipping a little bit of this so that we can get to talk with them. So first of all, let's talk about managing your buzz. And so you're like, okay, what is this, Bethany? So we'll talk about a few things. What it is, your current buzz, how do you know what it is? And then how do you go about creating, managing, or changing it? All right, so what is your buzz? So essentially it's really similar to what your brand is. It's kind of like what people say about you when you are not in the room. So, you know, these are some of the things that they might be saying, like, can you believe, or, you know, what's it like working for or working with, or how should I prep for my meeting with so-and-so? You can also think of it as the overall energy that people feel when they're around you. So are they excited? Are they engaged? You know, do they maybe actually seem a little more bored or frustrated? It can also be the thing that gets you invited to participate in events and projects or not. And that's kind of, you know, speaking in a professional sense, but then also in an academic sense, you know, getting involved with different clubs, different groups. It can be what gets you invited to participate in certain class projects or not, you know, with groups that you want to be a part of. All right. And then how do you know how do you know what your buzz is? So, it's things that are said about you. I mean, you're going to have to probably find someone who's going to tell you the truth and maybe talk with your network. So, and it says the larger the network, the greater the chance to learn your buzz. So the more you're connecting with people and the more you're asking them, and it might seem a little weird at first to be like, hey, in our interactions, like what do you notice about me? And you can explain, like, I'm trying to build my brand here. I'm trying to understand what the buzz is around what I do, what my buzz is. And it can help you understand how people react and respond to you. You can also think about, what are you invited to participate in? Why were you selected? Did they select you because they wanted you in this group project and you have kind of a reputation of being really good at researching, or maybe you have a reputation of being a strong presenter. What do people do when you're talking? Do they take notes? Do they text? Are they engaged? Are they bored? Do they ask questions? All of these things can help you know what your buzz is. Now let's talk about how you can create it, manage it, or change it. Because, we want our buzz to be the best things, right? We want it to be like the best things about us. And so it might take a little bit of introspection. And so I want you to just take a couple minutes. Well, we'll probably do this part fairly quick, but just think about maybe 5 adjectives that people would use to describe you. And I'll give you maybe 30 seconds or so to kind of think about this. And if you're having trouble, that's okay. Just get down some adjectives that you can think of. And then once you've thought of that, how people would currently describe you, I want you to think about 5 adjectives that you would like for people to associate with you. So we're trying to pinpoint what our buzz currently is, a little bit about it, and then what we would like it to be. So I'll give you an example of, mine. So I know I tend to be really good at research, which is great for that aspect of my reputation. In some ways, that makes me a little bit slower to respond. And so both of those things are part of my buzz. People might say, oh, Bethany, she's really thorough, but it's going to take her a little while to get back to you. And so one of the things that I might want to do is I might want to, I want people to think of me as someone who's really smart and knows their stuff, but maybe I also want to be quicker on getting back to people with my answers. So those are some ideas of things that you could possibly put down. All right. Now, some things that are going to help you. It really starts with being self-aware. Are you self-aware? Do you have any blinders on? Are you able to kind of read the room? And then think about what kind of feedback you're getting. Where are you getting it from? Maybe you'll start noticing themes. That's kind of how I've started recognizing some of my buzz. Do you make it easy for people to give you honest feedback? This one can be kind of a tough one, but have you ever thought about with a group, a group project, asking your group sincerely, hey, is there any feedback that you guys can give me? Where am I doing well? Where can I improve? Do you have some truth tellers in your life? Are you broadening your network? And then how do you want to be seen? Do you feel like it's close to the real you? Is it authentic? Or, I guess a good balance of authenticity and kind of your game face? Do you understand the goals of, and here we have boss, organization, or customer, but it can also be your team, your school, your classmates. And then, so you want to make sure that you have your eyes open, you meet people where they are. So try to, be your best self. This is something that you don't necessarily want to overthink, but it helps to know your audience too. What do they need? Maybe your style is a little bit different from what they need or how they work. Can you try to flex your style? Share your intent and be intentional. What are you walking into? What does success look like to you? Then balance talking and listening. Preparing and offering like a point of view that's such a great one. If you can do that within your teams, especially as you're working on school projects, that's going to be phenomenal. Be ready to answer the question, what are you working on? I can see this coming in really handy while you're doing networking. Imagine you're talking with a recruiter, someone for a company that you're interested in. It might be beneficial to have some ideas of what are you working on, some things that you can discuss with them. Tell someone what you're trying to do. You can establish a cadence for feedback. You can have, maybe you've got a friend who you can share this with to say, hey, I'm trying to understand my buzz and figure out how to change it up. Let's meet, every other week, or let's meet once a month, and maybe you can give me some honest feedback. All right. And now this one, it's about your buzz, but it's kind of with a leadership focus on there. So I know you may be working in group projects. You may or may not be an official leader, but people lead in different ways. So this is also really helpful to think about, even if you're not, like the formal leader. You can think about, do people want to be led by you? Why? Why is that? How do you handle team meetings? Are you an appropriate voice on their behalf? Do you understand the concerns of your teammates? Are you having quality conversations? Are you trustworthy and transparent? Do you talk straight, or do you kind of beat around the bush? Are you a good coach? Are you more likely to tell or ask? Do you lead people to self-discovery? That one can be kind of tricky too. And then, are you good at not only giving, but receiving feedback? And then, do you help shape the buzz of your team members? So this really gets into like not just understanding and developing your own buzz, but helping the others around you on your team. All right. Oh, there we go. So, we can talk about this if you want. We don't necessarily have to, but I at least want you to kind of think about, I know there's a lot of information, but it is being recorded, so you can always look back through and, pause at different moments, or, focus on particular slides. But think about your reactions to this. Was there anything that, really kind of struck you and is going to stay with you? Any insights or takeaways? And then something that I'd really encourage you to do is, in particular, to think about those adjectives that you would really like to have associated with you, and come up with a sort of action plan of how you can sort of, manage and change that buzz. So, and I guess, some of that's over here, like, what are you working on? What 2 things could you do that would impact or maintain your buzz? So, and now this is kind of what we talk about sometimes at PepsiCo. People say like, hey, what's your buzz? Are you aware of your buzz? So now you can be kind of in the know on that too. And now, hope you guys don't mind. I'm just going to kind of keep like barreling forward. I'm hoping that this is giving you some good resources and tools for this upcoming year. And so I'm trying to fit in a decent amount, but we'll go over as well becoming a person of influence. And now that might seem like a little bit of a weird thing to talk about, but as you're working on projects with other people, as you're working with your classmates. I don't know, think about who you like to work with. I don't know, it's really tough sometimes to work with people who just tell you what to do. And so something that's going to be really beneficial is learning how to be influential, how to influence your team, and how to influence the people that you're working with. So I want you to just take a minute and think about some of the influential people in your life. You know, they could be, you know, celebrity figures, they can be family members. You know, it's worthwhile to just think about who influences you. Why are they influential? How are they influential? All right. And now influencing, it starts from within. So there's a couple of main points that I'll talk about when it comes to influencing. The first one is competence. You know, do you have the skills? Do you have that knowledge, that know-how? Yeah, does this sweater make me look competent? I always hope. You know, I got my Frito-Lay background, I got my Frito-Lay shirt, but you know, it's more than just the appearance. It's, do you have the actual know-how? Confidence. Do you show you know, confidence in your interactions with others, in your conversations with them? And then we also have character. So I like that phrase there. People with good intentions make promises. People with good character keep them. So competence. I'm going to forget what the second one was. Hold on. Wait, what was it?
Confidence.
Confidence.
Confidence, and character.
Oh gosh, that's probably the one I need to work on then. But yeah, competence, confidence, and character. And I think if you can look at where you stand on each of these, you can become a much more influential person. So let's talk about character. So what hurts your character? If you don't tell the whole truth. And you know, some of this might seem like common sense, but some of these can be kind of difficult to follow through. What if you're in a situation where telling the whole truth is not an easy thing to do? Or you have a commitment that is not necessarily easy to fulfill. And so, you know, there's also leaving assignments uncompleted. And then also talking about something that should have been kept in confidence. And now let's talk about engaging others. So working with others and being influential, I think one of the most important things you'll want to understand is just your audience and what is important to them. If you don't understand that, you won't be able to know how to relate to them, how to make your words have an impact on them. So yeah, look for some common ground. Start with where you agree and share common experiences and really try to build that foundation. I find that the people who influence me the most in the most positive ways, I have a lot of trust with them because they've done a lot of this groundwork. Be an excellent listener and use direct eye contact. Recognize and respect differences. You're going to encounter that a lot in school and at work. Communicate from the heart, of course. And then figure out how to connect on a deeper level. And now, of course, as much as we might wish, there is no, one-shot answer. There's no silver bullet. It's going to differ depending on who you're working with. Another thing that I think is really important to keep in mind is what language are you using? Words really do have quite a lot of power. And so, we've got kind of this spectrum here. We've got different types of, different tones of how your words can be perceived. And really, you kind of want to be right in the middle there, I think, with that firm. You don't want to seem too harsh. You don't want to seem necessarily too weak. Though, there are definitely times when apologizing is necessary, and I think that can be the strong thing to do. But, we really want to strike a balance there, because it's really hard to work with people who are overly harsh, or then people who are just kind of maybe ambivalent, non-committal. All right. So yeah, positioning your ideas, try to be firm. So, instead of necessarily being provisional, saying, what if, would it be possible, one alternative, these types of things, they're not, it's not to say these are bad phrases, but there are ways that you could sound a little more firm. I recommend we look at this. Based on our experience, let's try this approach. Or if it were my decision, I would take this route. All right. And then regarding our vocabulary, impact versus qualifiers. So, again, here I'll pull all these up here on the table, but, similar to that last slide, you notice under impact, it's a lot more firm. It's a lot more confident sounding. I feel strongly. Whereas qualifiers, which again, it's not the worst thing in the world to use some qualifiers, but when you use qualifiers, it definitely doesn't sound as strong. So like if I were to start this presentation saying, this is a little outside my area of expertise, but here we go. We're going to go for it. It doesn't necessarily instill as much confidence as I might hope. So, all right. And then, that last point on there, getting your position on the table. I think these are great points if you are in a group setting and, sometimes it can be a real struggle to put your information out there, your opinion, and you might be more shy, you might be more introverted. So these are just a couple of ways that you can make sure to get your voice out there, and you can say something like, hey, I'd like to jump in here really quick and just add this, or you can build on points, or you can add some feedback or reactions. All right. And then last of all, I think asking open-ended questions, that is a great way to understand your audience. So, and when it talks about discovering your stakeholders' agenda, what's important to your stakeholders. Stakeholders, that's a term for the people who are invested in what you're working on. So, it could be your other students in your class, could be your professors. If you're doing internships and jobs, it's who are the people who have some skin in the game here, whose opinions I need to be mindful of, whose goals I need to understand. So these are some examples of some open-ended questions. I really like this one. In fact, and I'll often leave off the concerning this project, if I'm just networking with someone, I like to ask people what things they're working on and what kind of things keep them up at night, because that gives me a really good indication of things that they are focusing on and wanting to find solutions for. So, all right, that was a lot of information. Are you guys okay? Yeah. Was any of that information helpful? Yeah? Okay. And I have more / other information. I've got my contact information at the end. So, but let me just put it in the chat here as well, so that if you guys had any questions or wanted maybe some more information or some more tools, I can send you some of that. So without further ado, let's do some panelist introductions here. So first, I'll give Gracelyn the chance to introduce herself a little bit, and then we'll go to Zach.
Okay, perfect. Well, hi, everybody. My name is Gracelyn Footit, and I will be starting my senior year in a couple weeks at Carthage College in Kenosha, Wisconsin, where I'm double majoring in marketing and communications with a minor in Spanish. Over the summer, I served as the community impact intern for KPMG. I was supposed to be based out of the office that was in Chicago. However, I just kind of ended up working with everybody across the country, which was really interesting because I got to talk to people that were in Florida and Virginia and Denver. So it was really cool to get to see how each branch of KPMG kind of does community impact a little different. So if you don't know what community impact really is, I know it was something that I was very confused about when I started. It's basically how KPMG essentially volunteers in the community and gives back to the community. So everybody does something that's a little bit different. I know a lot of what they focus on is with literacy and reading and books, but it does kind of depend on the location. Sometimes places have something that's a little bit more specific based off of what their area geographically needs. So some of the things I did as the community impact intern, I was only there for about a month, so I didn't do a ton. I was there for a month exactly. So I did work on developing the internal portal page for Enactus. So for each organization that KPMG partners with, they do have an internal portal page where people who work at KPMG can learn about the organization, some of the stuff that they do. With Enactus being responsible for many KPMG employees, we also decided to add the feature of trying to find an Enactus alumni network or trying to create an Enactus alumni network for KPMG. I did also assist in creating a strategic results framework survey and dashboard. One of the things they showed me was this graphic where they have all this information about what percent was impacted by this project, what percent was impacted by this project, but they didn't have the numbers. So I helped create the survey so that they could put numbers in those blank percentage spaces. And then also worked on formatting a dashboard so that on the internal portal page, all of the employees could see the percentages of the impact. I also did write a couple articles for them. So one of them was about my Enactus experience. Another one was about the summer leadership series. And then the last thing that I did was social media. So I did get to help pick and design a couple social media posts, which was kind of fun. I really enjoyed that. I got to do a little bit of everything in both marketing and communications, which is really cool. But overall, it was absolutely fantastic. Everyone was super friendly and very helpful. Another thing that KPMG did that I thought was very different was they made sure that I met everybody on the team and scheduled time to interact with everybody on the team just to get to know them personally, a 15-minute chat. We didn't even have to talk about KPMG. It's more so just so that you get to know who you're working with on a personal level. And it's really great for making connections because I know that there were multiple people that I interacted with that were Enactus alumni, or because I'm from Wisconsin Dells, which is in the middle of Wisconsin, but it's a big tourist city. There are people that who had lake houses up by there or would visit there that were from the area. Overall, it was just really cool to get to kind of connect so personally on such a big professional level. But otherwise, currently in Enactus, I serve as the chair of the Student Advisory Committee, which, by the way, we are accepting applications. So if that sounds interesting, I would recommend looking it up online and then applying. And then, as Ray had mentioned, I did also have an internship in the fall of last year with another Enactus partner, Live Kindly, where I did ghostwrite articles and social media posts and stuff like that.
Definitely. All right, we will head over to Zach.
Alrighty, hello guys, happy to be here with you all. So I'm Zach Gibson. I also go to school at Carthage College. So me and Gracie came in both as freshmen and we met freshman year. So I know Gracie pretty well. But at Carthage, I major in finance and marketing. And I think that's what I'm going to stick with. I've switched around quite a few times, but finance and marketing I've found is what I've enjoyed most. So some of my hobbies, I guess, is I enjoy nonfiction reading. So a fun fact about me is I started a business book club at Carthage, which a lot of my friends gave me a hard time about because it's kind of the nerdiest thing of all time. But I really do enjoy nonfiction reading, especially like some of my favorite authors are like Malcolm Gladwell, and a few other ones too. But Malcolm Gladwell is probably my favorite. And then I enjoy all sorts of sports. Soccer and basketball are probably the two I watch most. And then I just like enjoy staying active by hiking, biking, and working out. But like Ray said earlier, my internship this year was with Topco Associates. And Topco is a very confusing business. And to be quite frank, it would honestly take longer than my 3-month internship to fully understand what Topco does. But at the most basic level, Topco is a food co-op, and what their mission is to make life easier for the independent retailer. So I think there's about 50 members that Topco works with, but if you've heard of Hy-Vee is definitely their biggest one. They'll do anything from helping them launch own brands to marketing their products, to procurement, and all the supply chain stuff that goes along with that. Topco helps out with all of that. So they have their hands in a lot of different things. But where I worked mostly was with the Commodities Department. And the Commodities Department is fairly new at Topco. Topco has about 500 associates, but the Commodities Department only has 2. So I mainly worked with 2 people throughout the summer, but I still kind of like the Commodities Department is pretty integrated throughout the company. So I ended up working with a lot more people, but in the actual department, there's only 2. And the reason they just launched a Commodities Department is, if Topco is working on procuring flour for a member such as Hy-Vee, the Commodities Department is doing work behind the scenes looking at wheat future prices and trying to hedge those prices so that Hy-Vee, the member, can know exactly what that wheat and eventually that flour is going to cost them, so they can kind of plan around that and plan their marketing campaign based on their budget and everything to that degree. So it was really interesting throughout the summer learning how the Commodities Department does their fundamental analysis, and right before they're going to enter into a futures contract, what kind of technical indicators they're looking at when they do that. So that was a really good experience for me. And I was one of 11 other interns. So our cohort, or one of 10 other interns. So our cohort was 11 in total. So we had a really fun project between all 11 of us where we collaborated to give a presentation to the senior execs at the end of the internship all about transparency in grocery. And to give you a little background on that, transparency is anything from the nutrition label you see on products to, how they're being marketed and the labels that are put on them, such as gluten-free and, dairy-free and all of those labels that go with it. So it was really interesting to collaborate with 11 other interns that we barely knew. I can say in our first few meetings together, we really didn't get much done because we were figuring out who had what strengths and what role people would play throughout the group project. But it was a good experience to do that and eventually present to senior execs. And luckily we did get to do that in person. My internship was mostly virtual, but they did fly us out for a week, which was just an awesome experience there. But besides that, some of the individual work I did is I kind of got all of the different reports that the commodity team puts out, which there's a lot, there's so many different commodities that within the grocery industry. So I kind of was able to take all of those reports and confine them and put them into pretty much make that process more streamlined for any of the 500 associates who wants to go out and see a report. In the past, they would have to go and search through their emails, months and months back. But I just took all those reports and compiled them and put them into a SharePoint folder. And then I researched a lot about how to hedge resin. And resin is pretty much just plastic for those of you who don't know, which is kind of funny because right when I got that product, I'm big on sustainability, and I launched a sustainability project within Enactus. So I'm like, wow, this is kind of ironic. I'm helping them, procure and essentially get plastic for cheaper. But it ended up almost being a blessing in disguise because I was able to really research how resin is made and eventually what suppliers are looking for, or what the grocery stores are looking for when they're buying their resin. And I was able to research some of the bio resins and some of those solutions that they're coming out with, and kind of understand why some of those plastics aren't being adopted as fast as the traditional plastics like polypropylene and polyethylene. So that was a really cool experience to do that. And then my final project was making some commodities dashboards using different futures data, and WASDE report, USDA, is where a lot of the commodities data comes from. But I was able to use Tableau to build a dashboard for the commodities team. So that's a little bit about me and some of the internship work I did. But I guess, we can open it up to questions now.
Very, very impressive to learn what both of you did.
I just want to echo, Bethany, what you just said. Those two internships, and I know other people watching, you probably have done some great internships and everything else, but they sound very, very meaty. And I think it's important when you look at an internship, when you're looking to take an internship, that there are relevant projects that you can get into and that there's relevant work that you can do. And then on top of that, you need to go in and actually do and produce the work. And it sounds like both of you really had a great experience. And I'm kind of bummed. I know one of the other young ladies that was going to join us tonight, her name is Britt Cabo, and she was a representative from Enactus who did an internship with Bic Corporation. And she got to work directly with Gonzalve Bic, the CEO and the chair of the board of directors for Enactus. So, those types of things, it's really great to see Enactus students taking advantage of what our partners are offering with these really great, meaty internships and getting a lot out of it. Zach, I heard you say that, you learned a lot this summer that you can maybe even implement in some of your Enactus programs and that sort of thing. So that's really fantastic.
So I do have some questions that I have prepared, though I'll say, if anyone in the chat, if you're thinking of some questions that you want to ask, feel free to put something in the chat or raise your hand. But one of the big questions that I wanted to ask you both is, first of all, have you ever had a time when things they weren't really working out either with school, work, or your internships? And how did you turn that around into something positive and keep moving forward?
Yeah, maybe I can take this one first. So this one actually came from one of the Enactus projects we were working on. We just launched it this year, and it was the sustainability project that I mentioned earlier. And there's kind of two parts of that project, and one was implementing more green energy on campus at Carthage. So that one actually went really successful, and that one was a pretty smooth process, and we were able to eventually form a sustainability task force housed under the president of our college. So that was a big win for us. But then on the other side of the project, we were trying to implement and push the city of Kenosha to become more green and to use more renewable energy. And on that side of the project, we worked a lot with a renewable energy company called All Energy Solar to form a group buy program that essentially makes solar energy cheaper for households and for businesses within the community. And we kind of were ready to launch it, and then we ran into a huge roadblock just based on there was issues with the group buy and the college, and in terms of liability, if someone was to ever have a bad experience with All Energy Solar, if they would eventually come back and like sue the college. So there was a big, problem there. And I'm happy we ran into it earlier on, but obviously that's a big setback and kind of hours of work there that almost felt wasted. But we were able to eventually talk to the college and kind of find a solution to form a separate LLC. So that's where we're at right now, is we formed a different LLC to separate ourselves from the college. And now hopefully we'll be able to launch that group buy here in the fall. So what seemed like a big obstacle at first and very easily could have just kind of been like, oh, we're done. I guess we have to quit. It kind of eventually turned into a new avenue that, hopefully will be successful here in the future. But I guess that's the biggest one that comes to mind for me.
Awesome. Thanks, Zach. Yeah, Gracelyn, if you want to chime in, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I would say for me, definitely one of the biggest challenges that I had during my internship was that when I was building that strategic results framework survey and the dashboard, we knew kind of what we wanted to mention, but we didn't really have an exact solid, these are the questions we want to ask type thing. And then also, because KPMG is so big, in order to make sure something is cleared before you send it out to the public, it goes through this chain. So here's me at the bottom of the chain writing it and writing these questions. And then I would send them to the person that was in charge of me, and she would kind of go over them. And sometimes the questions that I had, we rewrote it, I believe, 4 different times. Sometimes the questions that we had weren't always what she thought that they were looking for. And then it made its way about halfway up the chain before they turned it down. So I had to rewrite it, and then eventually it did make its way all the way up to the top, and it will be going out in the next month or so. But that was definitely a big challenge, is just having to change, rewrite. They don't want this information out. They want this information instead. But overall, we did find a solution that we feel will get them the best data. And then also is something that, when released to the public, reflects the best on KPMG.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Good examples there. It's not always easy when you encounter those obstacles, but when you can find a way to have them work in your favor, it can be kind of rewarding. So kind of on the flip side, instead of encountering an obstacle, if you ever had a time where things actually worked out really well, and then how did you keep moving forward from that and not just kind of let things stop there and get overly comfortable or complacent? How did you stay engaged?
Yeah, I think the first one that comes to my mind is in the internship this summer on that capstone project I talked about. We collaborated pretty well at the beginning, and I'd like the first 2 meetings we didn't get much done, and then after that we really pounded it out, and we got good data, and everything just kind of lined up, and the roles were clearly defined, and we ended up getting done a little bit sooner than our deliverable actually was when we were supposed to present to the senior execs. So I think in a moment like that, it can be very easy just to, like, we had other independent project work to do too. It can be easy just to kind of sit back and look at our deliverable and be satisfied with it. But we all kind of were able to push ourselves a little bit further to like, go one step further to find a new takeaway for the project, and to make some, like, we made some cool QR codes that brought them to different smart labels, which are pretty much just nutrition labels. But I think just taking that extra step after, maybe you've already completed something, I think that's a good way to motivate yourself. So.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah. So for me, one thing that I thought went really well was in my past internship with the other Enactus partner, Live Kindly. I got to ghostwrite a lot of articles, which was really cool. And I also got to interview with some famous people and like read the transcripts and stuff like that. So I thought that was really cool. But I was really, really excited the first time one of my articles got posted onto Live Kindly. And it was posted under someone else's name. I was just ghostwriting, but it was really cool and really exciting to actually see it get posted. So then after that, I just wanted to keep writing and keep getting out there more and more and more. And it was definitely helpful because it was a startup, and still, I guess, technically would be a startup business. But because it is so new, it does really help to keep that momentum going and forward, and you just want to keep building from there. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Gosh, great experiences. So let's see. I've got a couple other questions here. So what are some key skills you have learned or actions that you've taken that have helped you succeed and get to where you are today?
Yeah, I can start with this one. I definitely, when I'm looking for experiences and things that interest me, I want to make sure that I have a personal interest and attachment to them, I guess. So that's one thing that I really, really think has helped me a lot is I know about myself and I know what my interests are, what I look forward to, what I want to do in the future, or at least some vague idea of the industry I want to go in the future. And I think that has really helped me kind of put myself and imagine myself where I want to go and what I want to do. Otherwise, skills wise, I definitely think that I'm somebody who learns from, I guess, grows from learning and experience and stuff like that. So being able to just kind of reflect after everything that I do, and kind of like you said with the buzz, like what do people think about me, how I can get better, what can I do to change it so that if there was something negative that was said about me, I can turn it into a positive. That's something that I really like to do. And I feel like it just helps me grow as a person and professionally, just because I can learn and become the person I want to be.
Yeah, when I think of skills, I always think of them in two buckets, like technical skills and your soft skills. And in my opinion, I think the technical skills really get you there, but the soft skills is where you can really excel and set yourself apart. And obviously you have your soft skills like communication, which is essential. Being able to have those interpersonal skills and build relationships. But I think the best advice I ever got in terms of building skills is probably two of them. One, just not being afraid to ask questions and be curious. And some people don't really look at that as a skill, but if you're able to form good questions and always and actually listen to the answers and form conclusions and thoughts off that, I think it's really interesting to see where some of that takes you, because I've been in meetings where I think I'm going down one avenue, and I've been able to ask a few questions, and my viewpoint and my perspective on the situation and what I can do with it completely changes. So I think that ability to ask questions is a very big one. And then my second one would just be to become comfortable with being uncomfortable, because there's so many situations where you're sitting there, you're in your dorm room and there's this networking event, and it's gosh, I'm really comfortable right now, and networking is kind of scary, and it's kind of uncomfortable and awkward sometimes. But I think learning to be comfortable in those situations and willing to put yourself out there and just kind of be vulnerable sometimes, I would say that's probably given me the most benefit throughout my college career so far. So I think those two skills would really be my top two.
All right. If you could go back in time, say before starting school or maybe before starting this past internship, what advice would you give yourself to help you succeed?
I would say definitely don't stress over the things you can't control. I used to work at a golf course, and they had a little staff meeting, and I can't remember the name of the speaker, but she was really good, and she did things with the Minnesota Vikings. So I think she was well established, and I really should remember her name, but I don't. But her whole thing was to control the controllables, and it kind of changes your perspective, because I think so often we stress about things we really can't control, and it's really just wasted energy that could go to other things. So I'm still working on that, but I think just being able to kind of be more free spirited and not stress over those things is a big one. And then just kind of trusting the process. And I'm someone who has a tough time making decisions sometimes. If I have all sorts of options, it can be hard to make a decision and just commit to it, because it's always in the back of your head, like, did I make the right decision? You know, I could have had this other option. What would it look like if I chose that option instead? But I think what I've realized is no matter what decision you make, you really just have to go for it and be fully committed to it. And that's kind of when those things can be manifested, is if you really just commit to one thing and go for it. I think that's probably the best. So I wish I would have known that earlier, because I think I've wasted a lot of energy stressing over things and thinking back, like, did I make the right decision? So that's what I would tell my past self.
Awesome. Thanks.
Mine is very similar to Zach's. Mine is more so just like, basically everything's going to be okay. Do your best and there's no regrets. If you constantly put your best foot forward and do your best and try your hardest, everything will be okay. So that's definitely something that I would tell my past self, and I feel like it would save me a lot of stress.
Well, we're down to just our last few minutes. For our panelists, is there any last words of advice that you want to give?
Yeah, I guess the best advice I've ever been given is being able, this goes to anything in life, being able to change your paradigm. And you'll hear like the word paradigm and lots of people phrase it differently, but the one that I've always liked is, paradigm is how you view yourself, your situation, and the world around you. And anytime you are stuck in a bad situation where, maybe you have a professor you don't like, or your internship didn't go as well as planned, I think it's always good to realize that, sometimes if you're able to change that paradigm and change that perspective, things can get a lot better pretty quickly. So it can be more difficult to do than it is saying it, but that's probably the best advice I've ever been given. So.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah. And then I guess for me, I know at least a big thing for me is like trying to change the world and make it a better place than I found it. And I guess for me is just like, you never really realize how important and meaningful small interactions can be. So I watched this TED Talk when I was, I think, like a junior in high school, so a long time ago. And one of the things it said was, there isn't a world, there's just 7 billion different understandings of it. If you change one person's view of it for the better, you're essentially changing the world, because you changed one person's view of it. And that's something that I just try and do, is I just try and put forth my best self so that I can change at least one person's view of the world for the better. So, yeah.
Okay, I have one, and this could be the penultimate wrap-up question or whatever, but you guys both did an internship this summer. What's the status? Are you mulling offers? Are you committed? Are you moving on and looking for something else? Like, what's the next step for you?
Yeah, I just finished up last Friday, and in my exit interview, they did give me an offer. So I have till November to decide to accept it. And like I said, I don't like making decisions, and I have all sorts of different options in my head right now, because technically I'll be a junior next year. And I've thought about now doing a fourth year and doing different internships or co-ops that fourth year. And still kind of being a student. I would do them for 1 credit. So that's an option. I do also want to travel a little bit after college. So that's kind of weighing in my head. But then again, I had an excellent time at Topco, and I love the culture at Topco. And if I would accept a position, I would be doing a rotational program. So I think it would be a good experience to kind of, dip my feet into many different parts of the company. So that's kind of where I'm at. I've got a lot to decide, but it should be good.
It's great to have options. Congratulations on the offer.
Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So mine was, I took it with the intent of knowing that it wasn't going to produce an offer. I just took it because I thought it was really interesting, and I really liked KPMG and its values. So I am still looking and figuring out different places. But I would definitely love to do another internship in the fall, maybe one in the spring, and hopefully sometime between now and then I can figure out a plan.
Well, we'll keep working the Enactus network for you and hopefully keep you in there. But no, I look, it's to have a company like KPMG and then a startup like Live Kindly on your resume. I mean, that you're getting a variety of experiences that are going to serve you well as you start looking for that full-time job. So good on you there.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm confident. I'm sure you both, sounds like it was a great time, this past summer, and you've got opportunities and options, in front of you or coming your way soon, I'm sure. So I do want to share, let me share my screen again. Except my screen is not cooperating fully here. Let me, just so that I can show you all in case, and this is a total selfish plug from me just because I work with PepsiCo. If any of you are interested in anything PepsiCo related, didn't really talk too much about our job opportunities, but if it is something that you're interested in, bear in mind I work mostly with the sales folks. So if it's something outside of sales, I can do my best to try to get you connected with those people. But feel free to, I'll just put this out there if any of you want to follow us on social media or connect with me. And we've got some, we call them Pop into PepsiCo events where they're going to talk about sales opportunities and supply chain opportunities. So
yeah,
and
feel free to share this around with any of your colleagues on campus that may be interested in these types of positions, especially Bethany's email address. You want to just send her as many emails. Yeah, she's our direct Enactus contact, so she can definitely help you get things going there.
Yeah. So.
All right. Well, we are up on the hour. So thank you everybody for participating today. And I hope you learned something. I hope you were able to hear some great advice from one of our partners, but also some great experience from two of Enactus students who had great internships and learned a lot this past summer. Going to be taking that back to campus with them and implementing that in their lives. So thank you very much for participating, and we'll see you on the next video.
Thank you all.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.